Well, we have to more than farm. We have to be hunters as well. We have to cultivate the fields and the factory floors here in the state of Indiana and continue to be a powerhouse in advanced manufacturing.
Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb preparing for the next chapter. He reflects on his 2 terms leading the state, the highs, the lows, and what's next as he prepares to leave office. Plus,
Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown.
Indy scoring big again. Big Ten Championship weekend raking in millions. We look at how and why the competition to host is getting fierce. And
what kind of girl joins the Girl Scouts?
The evolution of Girl Scouts in America, how its past is connecting with the future, especially when it comes to high-tech career choices. Inside Indiana Business is next.
From Indiana's business news leader, this is IBJ Media's Inside Indiana Business with Gerry Dick, presented by Elevate Ventures, Indiana University, and LiUNA.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gerry Dick. Transition at the State House. In a little more than a month, Mike Braun will officially become Indiana's 52nd governor, succeeding Eric Holcomb, who leaves office after 2 terms. Holcomb's 8 years in office were marked by record economic development numbers and major investment from some of the biggest names in business: Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Lilly, just to name a few of the companies committing billions of dollars and thousands of jobs in Indiana. Lilly's $13.5 billion investment in Lebanon's LEAP Innovation District, its biggest ever. The LEAP development part of an aggressive business attraction strategy that attracted its fair share of critics too. As he prepares to leave office, I sat down with the governor this week at his residence to talk about accomplishments, lessons learned, and legacy. Well, Governor, as you prepare to leave office after 2 terms, reflecting back, how is Indiana today different than what it was when you took office?
Yeah, I've started to be very reflective about this and sentimental at times, and to think that we have a new Albany and a new Castle and a new Haven and a new Carlisle. It's really a new Indiana when you stop and think for a second about all the new ecosystems that are scattered and spread across the entire state. We've always been obviously a powerhouse when it comes to ag and ag biotech and life sciences and advanced manufacturing. Now we're increasingly finding ourselves planning for what we want to be in 2030 and 2040.
Some of the biggest names in business investing billions of dollars in the state of Indiana: Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon, investing lots of money, pledging to lots of jobs. Is there more in the pipeline? I mean, people are amazed at the level of investment by these companies. Is this the beginning?
This is the beginning, truly, and it's a new frontier, and we are, as we have, not just exploring this new space, but we're discovering and making those discoveries alongside the companies. And that's what's so attractive, is they see that we are investing in their pursuits, in our shared pursuits. And so for a state like Indiana that has had an Eli Lilly have their corporate headquarters and their corporate flag planted here, and to be a global company, but reinvesting up to now $13 billion in one new area of our state, shows to all the other companies, the companies that are manufacturing isotopes throughout the state of Indiana, shows that we have what it takes for them to not just start up, but to grow. We've had record years of new startups and new small business startups in the last 8 years as well.
Lilly investing in the LEAP Innovation District in Lebanon and Boone County. Very aggressive move and part of a strategy at IEDC. Not everyone is a big fan of that in terms of feeling the state shouldn't be in the business of acquiring land and going after business. How do you react to that? Because if you look at the LEAP district, there have been some big successes already there.
I would say that the state of Indiana has to operate at the speed of business, and we were competing against other states and losing looks and deals because, yes, we had low cost, yes, we had high talent, but we didn't necessarily have great sites. And now we're at a place to where we have a repository or an inventory at the IEDC of, if you need 5 acres or 50 acres or 500 or 1,500, we've got the inventory and here it is. Let's sit down and work together on what makes sense for you. LEAP was in reaction to being left out of deals that would have gone somewhere else. Now we're in the situation where other states are saying, we got to catch up with Indiana. Indiana's getting more than their fair share.
Was there one thing, especially as you look at the business side of things, that you're going to really remember?
Finishing I-69, which took 3 governors. Starting and finishing double tracking the South Shore Line, Westlake Corridor, making significant progress on 31, making sure that that corridor from Fort Wayne to Valparaiso into the 3rd biggest economy, Chicago, in the country is well on its way, heading in the right direction. Broadband internet, connecting rural places, expanding the field of commerce throughout all 92 counties. The trail program, we became a national leader in terms of hiking, biking, riding trails. So all those infrastructure projects.
Well, much more with Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb later in the show, including a behind-the-scenes look at some of his collections. The governor mentioned in that interview just now the historic opening of I-69 back in August. Well, there's a lot more money in the pipeline coming to Indiana to upgrade roads. Just this week, the Indiana Department of Transportation announced 64 communities across the state in line for $50 million in federal funding to make upgrades to local roads. A couple of examples: Adams County, Northeast Indiana, getting more than $2.5 million to modernize its attenuator guardrail system. In Porter County, the city of Valparaiso getting more than $1 million for new road signage. Indianapolis landed the largest chunk of the grant, raking in $4 million for road safety improvements. When we come back, college football, athletes chasing glory at Lucas Oil Stadium.
The house that Peyton built. Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. And we're ready for the Big Ten title.
Different schools playing for the Big Ten football championship, bragging rights this year in Indy. The city's game plan: keep hosting that big event.
The new basketball arena.
Hard to believe it, but 57 years ago this week, Purdue faced the John Wooden-led UCLA Bruins in the first game ever played at Mackey Arena. The Boilers fell just short, losing 73-71 to the eventual national champs and their superstar big man, Lou Alcindor.
Fast forward 50 years later, and those same UCLA Bruins are now part of the expanded Big Ten Conference that now has a major footprint on the West Coast, which means more competition, not only for on the playing field, but also for cities vying to host Big Ten championships. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redmond here now with more on Indy's game plan to stay competitive.
Well, Gary, it's no secret that when it comes to being a host city, Indy has established itself as a staple in the world of college sports, especially when you're talking about the Big Ten Conference. This weekend's Big Ten Football Championship, just the latest in a long line of the conference's major sporting events to take place in the Circle City. But the question remains, how does Indianapolis stay competitive now that you've got the likes of Vegas and Hollywood knocking on the door?
Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. And
Lucas Oil Stadium is the only home the Big Ten Football Championship has ever known, and it will stay there at least through 2028. But after that, no guarantees.
Obviously, for the Big Ten, with their expansion of the West Coast, we thought we would be lucky if we got 2 years of those 4. So we were super ecstatic that we were able to retain the game. It really takes us executing this game at a high level every single year to show the Big Ten why Indianapolis is the best place to host this game. We're now up to almost 30,000 people that are buying their tickets before teams are even announced because they want to come to Indy to celebrate the Big Ten, to be a part of what the weekends become. And so that's really what, keeps us in the driver's seat.
But remaining in that driver's seat is going to continue to become increasingly more difficult, with the likes of Vegas, LA, and other cities out west that also want a piece of the Big Ten pie.
Obviously, Vegas has a lot of hotel rooms. They have a lot going on. They have been very vocal in the last few years of going after our events, and they have the ability to build new facilities. They have got, all kinds of things that they've been building. So we can't compete with that. And so what we have to do is we have to make sure that we compete on the strengths that we have. And our strengths are, we have a walkable, connected downtown campus. We can out-welcome anybody. Hoosier hospitality is real. And we come together better as a community to execute and host people than any other city. And when we lean into those, we can compete against the glitz of Vegas and the things that they have, because we execute at a high level and people recognize that. This weekend's an important weekend overall on the convention calendar. The state and everyone realizes that this is important to Indiana overall. And so people work hard to make sure that the Big Ten knows that they are valued here in Indianapolis.
And Talty tells me he wants to keep the Big Ten football championship here indefinitely. He's going to do everything he can to make that happen.
Tough to beat Indy. Thanks, Mary Rachel. Well, downtown Indianapolis has new space for fans to cheer on their favorite teams. Tom's Watch Bar is known as a sports entertainment concept that focuses on the fan experience while offering a variety of food and drink. Tom's will host weekly fan events and featured games across, get this, 135 screens.
We're an extension on behalf of the teams for their fan base. And that's obvious when teams are away. We give people a place to go and have, as close to a camaraderie-based in-stadium experience as possible.
Tom's Watch Bar, located on Illinois Street, strategically situated between Lucas Oil Stadium and Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Up next, the Mascot Hall of Fame scouting a new location, and clean energy in Kokomo, the dynamic unfolding that could have a big impact on 2 EV plants there and what it could mean for thousands of jobs.
Here's what's making news around Indiana, brought to you by the Indiana Association of Realtors, Indiana's 21,000 realtors, the neighbors you know, the experts you can count on.
And we begin with positive signs for Stellantis, Samsung SDI's massive clean energy investment in Kokomo. Despite challenges facing the company, Stellantis securing more than a $7.5 million loan from the federal government to build 2 electric vehicle plants in Kokomo. It's unclear, though, whether that loan will be finalized before President-elect Trump takes office January 20. The nearly $6 billion project is expected to employ 2,800 workers. Stellantis currently navigating through rough waters, though, slumping sales, forcing its CEO to recently step down. The Indianapolis Airport Authority's plan to decommission the downtown heliport has been approved by the FAA. The authority has not publicly disclosed its target closure date for the heliport. It will stay open until its only tenant, IU Health Lifeline, relocates to Hancock County next year. In Clay County, there is a change in ownership at Technifab Products in Brazil. Connecticut-based Crane has purchased the company in a deal valued at $45.5 million. Technifab has manufactured cryogenic products, which are tailored for systems that run in extremely cold temperatures since 1992. And the Mascot Hall of Fame looking for a new home, and founder David Raymond says he's having preliminary conversations with multiple locations, both inside and outside of Indiana. The Whiting Museum closed in September, but still exists online. Among interested parties, Fair Oaks Farms in Jasper County and the NCAA Hall of Champions in downtown Indianapolis. Turning now to the business of health and new numbers in on the economic impact of the biosciences in Indiana. And those numbers, Kylie Valletta, look very strong.
Yes, and this comes from a very valued source in the industry. This comes from Bio, which is a very well-respected source. And this new report says that the biotech sector overall in Indiana grew 12% in the last 4 years, plus 7,000 new jobs, which keeps Indiana in the top 10 states for life sciences employment. One reason could be due to pay. The average Hoosier life science wage more than $118,000. Interestingly, the Indianapolis Carmel Greenwood region ranked 4th in the U.S. for the number of people working in the pharmaceutical space. A groundbreaking clinical trial is now underway at Purdue University, but these aren't human patients. Man's best friend is helping Dr. Deborah Knapp at the College of Veterinary Medicine sniff out better treatments for bladder cancer. In the Boilermaker Clinic, a Sheltie named Millie is the first dog to receive a new cutting-edge drug made by a Boston-based startup. Knapp says studying the new drug in dogs could help take a bite out of the human disease.
When dogs develop bladder cancer, it's really similar to high-grade invasive bladder cancer in humans. So when we learn information from dogs, we can learn information that we expect to help humans.
The study focuses on certain breeds. Scottish Terriers, for example, are 20 times more likely to have bladder cancer. And now a follow-up on an Indiana mother who is moving mountains in Indiana's opioid epidemic. We first told you about Justin Phillips, the founder of nonprofit Overdose Lifeline, when she was named a Woman of the Year by USA Today. The Indiana nonprofit now marking a major milestone. It has hit the 1 million mark for naloxone kits distributed in the state. The free overdose reversal kits are stocked in boxes and vending machines throughout Indiana. Her nonprofit was inspired by her son, Aaron, who died from an overdose when he was 20. She later realized naloxone could have saved his life.
45 days after Aaron lost his life, someone talked to me about naloxone and how it was something I didn't know of and how it required a prescription to now, and the programming that we have and the impact that we're making on families and the people who I hear about. The anecdotal stuff is always, for me, the biggest impact, that people will say, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for access to naloxone.
And recent data shows the number of overdose deaths in Indiana dropped 19%, beating the national average. In honor of her efforts, Phillips was recently awarded a Sagamore of the Wabash.
A real milestone and evidence that this really neat effort is gaining traction.
Really, and she talks about how when she first started her crusade, you couldn't get naloxone without a prescription. It's so unrealistic to think anyone's going to go to a doctor and say, I know someone who might be using, I need a naloxone prescription. Mm-hmm. She changed that by passing the law in Indiana, 2015, Aaron's Law. So from it not even being available to now 1 million kits, staggering when you think about how far she's helped lead Indiana.
Great story, Kylie, thanks. Mm-hmm. And when we come back, behind the scenes...
A typical year would have, right here, 792 cards, times 1968 forward. So...
that's a big number.
You can do the math.
From baseball cards to presidential signatures to international treasures, Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb's seldom seen collections. That's next.
Time now for our Eye on Education, brought to you by PNC Bank.
In central Indiana alone, Girl Scouts sell, get this, more than 3 million boxes of cookies annually. Scouting, though, has evolved with a mission to empower girls to become leaders. Much of the focus is on education, especially in science, engineering, technology, and math.
Girl Scouts has 4 pillars. One of them is STEM. And it is our most growing space. It's our most popular space. We are the best companion to the K-12 classroom. The places we can take girls, the things they can see and experience, the women they can see, leading, doing, racing. I think that's what Girl Scouts brings. So yes, do I think that prepares them for life and career and choices they not know otherwise? Absolutely.
Girl Scouts of Central Indiana CEO Danielle Shockey. You can hear more from her about the Girl Scouts on the most recent edition of the Business and Beyond podcast. Well, circling back to where we started the show and the second part of our conversation with outgoing Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb. He's preparing to leave office after serving 2 terms. When we sat down with the governor this week, we didn't expect him to take us to some places inside the governor's residence very few people get to see. Upstairs at the governor's residence.
That's a George Washington piece of correspondence.
Behind the scenes.
Goes from Washington Adams to the next Adams. All the way down and then back and ends up where we are.
Where you'll find walls lined with pictures and signatures from every U.S. president.
LBJ and different parts of his life. This represents the 6 continents that we've sold Indiana on, like man-made.
The International Room, pictures and unique mementos chronicling more than 24 trade trips.
Like late 60s, 70s, binders that would have been individually collected.
And baseball cards. Lots of baseball cards.
A typical year would have right here 792 cards.
Okay.
Times 1968 forward.
Forward.
So
That's a big number.
you can do the math. It's a way of kind of keeping your childhood alive, maybe, for me with the baseball cards, and just hating the fact that we used to put them in the spokes of our bicycles, and
Right.
thinking about those, if they were in mint condition today, how much they would be worth.
How about for Eric Holcomb? What's next?
To be determined. My wife is, I'm going to shower her with attention till she tells me I'm being a pest, and that'll probably take 2 months.
Yeah. Have you given much thought? Do you have some ideas?
I have some ideas. I have some options. I've not told anyone yes. I've told some folks no. I don't want to act like I'm playing hard to get, but I really do, after 8 years, want to, my wife said, deprogram right before her very eyes. And I want to give some time to breathe, not act too quickly, but I'll be interested in helping an organization, generally speaking, grow, and grow in a way that's innovative. And so there's a number of options out there, and I'll take my time. Won't need to make a rushed decision.
Governor Eric Holcomb, really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us for this conversation, and do want to thank you, too, for your service to Indiana.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Indiana's next governor, Mike Braun, will be sworn into office Monday, January 13th. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Inside Indiana Business. We leave you this week with a trip through the Christmas Nights of Lights at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Go out and make it a successful week.